Well, good morning, everyone, or good afternoon, wherever you happen to be. My name is Mark Monroe. I'm the account manager for Quest Software. With me today, I've got David Hunter, who is our sales engineer, and we'll be doing a demo. We'll try to make this as interactive as possible. And again, thank you for your time. We know your time is precious. But again, I think hopefully what you hear today and see today will be of value to you, that you can take back to your organizations and start to have further discussions. And I know the team at Optrics will assist in any further questions that you might have. So this is the agenda. We're going to talk about, I'm going to briefly talk about the complexity around systems endpoint management, what's driving that, how you can solve some of those issues. We'll talk briefly about what KACE is, and then we'll really get into the actual demo. Dave will get into the demo piece of that, really just showing you what the interface and the appliance looks like. And again, if there are questions during the presentation, please feel free to ask, and we'll be monitoring those questions during the time of the presentation. So really, I mean, there's lots of reasons today that customers are experiencing really challenges around managing the proliferation of endpoints within their environment. And there's a lot of reasons to be concerned. Ultimately, it's one of the things that we have found, that security comes up many times as an issue and a concern and a driving reason why they want to I guess automate and really manage their systems a lot better. Again, probably no surprise here, but we see this as one of the top reasons why organizations out there are looking at tools to manage their systems. But having said that, it's a challenge. It's a challenge for many organizations to do that because it's a time-consuming process. The systems have to be not only provisioned but maintained on a regular basis. They've got to be updated. There's regulatory requirements that they have to meet, and so it becomes a time-consuming process where most organizations don't have the manpower or the bandwidth to really I guess, manage the whole process in a way that's going to guarantee the security of their environment, the compliance of their environment. And so they need tools. They're looking for tools to be able to do this. And there's lots of tools out there. Some customers or organizations are using very manual tools. Some are using highly complex and large enterprise-based tools. And so today we want to show you a tool we believe is an excellent tool because it's simple to use, it's comprehensive, and it's easy to set up. And again, I think I spoke to this point. Many organizations find this a daunting task, and a large percentage of organizations again, are having devices on their network that they're undiscovered and they don't know about. And this does present a security profile, a risk profile. So when we talk about endpoint systems management, we look at it really as a kind of a life cycle from provisioning, managing, securing, and servicing that device. And so your organization, if you've taken any devices, you really have to deal with all four of these things. And I'll just flip up some of the things that you're going to have to basically automate. Many of these things here you have to automate, or you should automate. And what we do with KACE is automate a lot of these processes. And so it does really allow you to focus on managing your systems in an efficient way, reducing the complexity. And you'll notice in the middle here, we've got multiple different operating systems. Many organizations have to manage devices that have multiple different operating systems. So it really adds to the complexity. So again, what we try to address with our tool is this life cycle in a way that's automated and simple and easy to use. So KACE really helps you automate a lot of what I just showed you there. You know, it does cut down and reduce your risk associated with managing your endpoints. More importantly, though, it can reduce the amount of resources you need within your organization to manage those endpoints by automating much of the processes that we just showed you in an efficient manner. And so I think that's probably the biggest takeaway here today. If you're struggling with endpoint systems management, simplicity and the ability to manage those devices under one tool. So, you know, again, endpoint management, unified endpoint management is really a comprehensive suite of products from Quest. We're going to focus really just on the two to the left around devices, our systems management appliance, which includes many of the features that you see on there. I think Dave will focus on that primarily today. So that is what we'll be doing today. Many organizations, again, KACE is not a new product. It's been out there in the market for many, many years. And we've got, again, a lot of good customer testimonials. So if you haven't heard of KACE, you know, I think the point is that it's a product that's been around for many years and does have thousands of satisfied customers. So let me just quickly touch on the SMA, which is really the systems management appliance. These are the functions that are going to be automated within the appliance, and Dave will just kind of take us through and demonstrate a number of these different things. The key thing here is it streamlines your asset management, secures your network with connected, so you know what's on your network, and allows you to essentially set up a service desk. The deployment appliance, again, is a simple virtual appliance. Allows you to plan, configure, and deploy your systems, your operating systems, through various features. And so we won't. I'm not sure we're going to demonstrate this today, but just know that this product is available. We've also got an MDM that's out, and so many of our customers have to manage mobile devices, and so we do have an MDM solution, and again, we can provide more information around that at a later date. For convenience sake, we have a mobile app that allows you to essentially run your manage all your devices from a mobile device. Again, for convenience, those on the go, I think is a great tool to give the flexibility to allow you to manage your entire system from a mobile device. So again, just to wrap it up, you know, KACE is a simple, but comprehensive device. It can be stood up fairly quickly, but it's also a comprehensive device or set of tools that allows you to manage your overall systems management environment in a way that's allows you to minimize the amount of time you have to do it. So with that, I will hand it over to Dave, and Dave will take you through the appliance. And again, if you've got any questions, happy to answer those questions at this point in time.
Perfect. Thanks, Mark.
Great, thanks.
Okay, I've switched the presenter over to you, Dave.
Okay, it's going to make me add an extension here, so I'll just talk through it. Perfect, there we go. So if you guys can just let me know once you see my screen. It's coming up now, I believe.
Yeah, looks good. And if anybody has any questions, just pop your question into the chat feature, and I'll keep an eye on it, and we can pass it on to Dave. All right, thanks.
Yep, perfect, sounds great. So welcome, guys. I really appreciate your time out of your busy schedules to share some time with us. So as Mark touched on, we're with Quest Software. I'm the KACE pre-sales engineer in Canada. I actually live in Western Canada, and I'm frequently in Alberta, meeting with customers and partners. So in front of you on the screen right now is our systems management appliance. As Mark touched on, we have 5 products in our portfolio, so I have to remember how many we have. The systems management appliance is our flagship product. It's a competitor to SCCM, Altiris, LANDesk. So, you know, if you have system management needs around those core products, we're very comprehensive and easy to implement and use. We also have another appliance, which is purely an imaging deployment appliance. So, you know, if you're a Dell shop predominantly from an end user compute, we're probably the best in the business for imaging Dell hardware. We are hardware agnostic, so we can image everything out there. We just have integrated driver feed for Dell. And then if you're in an Active Directory environment, we've got some great tools that we inherited from ScriptLogic around user profile management with desktop authority, and another product called Privilege Manager, which allows you to scan your environment for UAC calls, remove local admin rights, to provide a least privilege environment. So to kick it off, in front of you right now is our systems management appliance. As I said, a couple of key things for this, or the sort of the big differentiator in the market, is that we are an appliance. We are virtual only and Hyper-V or VMware. We did offer a hardware appliance at one point, which we OEM through Dell. And we just found that the majority of our customers were virtual or they had a cloud orientation. So we dropped the hardware option late last year. So as I said, we are virtual based, so it's a pre-built appliance. You basically just download, import into your hypervisor. The key to us is real time to value. So within about 15 minutes, you're presented with a short wizard after the import. Give it a name, an IP, a password, and a product key. And you have a dashboard of the home. It's customizable through adding and removing widgets. So this is per user view. We also we embed ourselves with LDAP. So we do an LDAP import on a scheduled basis. So we bring in your user state as well as your LDAP structure for labeling or container structure from LDAP on a predetermined basis. So this view here is customizable per logged in user. So as we go through this, we are agent-based. So basically the most common way for people to provision agents through group policy. We can provision through the appliance if you need to. I typically see that in small environments, larger environments, group policy. We're just an MSI. We embed the host name within the MSI name. So it's a silent install and no restart required. So very little impact to the customer or to your endpoints. Once we do that, basically the machines that have the agents deployed will appear in inventory. So once again, we have a dashboard, an inventory dashboard, which is also customizable via widgets, which is more tailored for just the inventory perspective. Once you come in here, you'll see this. Can everyone let me know if the resolution on this is high enough for you guys to see detail?
It looks great. No problem.
Okay, great. Thanks, man. So as you can see here, we've got some machines in inventory. This is just my sandbox running in VMware. The top one here is a Dell box. It's a precision laptop. So you see the information we see in front of us today is purely driven from the agent. So very little interaction from the customer or from you guys. So in that case, you know, rapid time to value around inventory. So you see a good overview of hardware, logged in user, operating system. We get more granular here on the hardware side around TPM and you know, AMT for vPro and warranty information. We were actually owned by Dell for 5 years when Dell decided that they wanted to become a solutions group. And then when Dell went through the whole acquisition of EMC, they divested the entire software group. So KACE was KACE prior to the Dell acquisition. We became Dell. Quest Software was the largest acquisition in order to create the Dell software group. And part of the offset there is we all folded under Quest. So you see things like this, the Dell service information we still inherited from Dell. So we've got good warranty information on Dell. This version here, we also have warranty integration with HP and Lenovo as well. So historically, HP and Lenovo didn't really want to talk with us because we were Dell. We've overcome some barriers, and we're currently also talking right now with Microsoft to gather that surface information as well. A lot of customers see value in this aspect for when they're planning refresh strategies and stuff. A lot of customers, if they have a decent refresh budget, they'll kind of budget on warranty end dates. You see down here also just a good overview of BIOS versioning and stuff like that. We can also track changes. Hardware doesn't change very much right now anymore, unless you're in a manufacturing hourly environment and you're subject to some loss protection. But from a virtual infrastructure environment, we'll also track if processor and memory changes occur in the hypervisor. If we come down, we capture install programs. So, we're really going to look at the overview of what's on that box. This one here is actually just from add remove programs in the registry. So, the granularity of the data isn't awesome. We cover that off in the software catalog. But things we do grab, which customers find a lot of value, simple things like uninstall command lines. And that uninstall command line, we actually have a wizard-based uninstaller in our scripting engine that we can easily remove machines from the environment, whether individually or containers of machines or everything. So come back here. So that brings us into the software catalog. The software catalog is basically a catalog that Dell also acquired through an acquisition of a company called ASAP Software. It's pretty much one of the premier catalogs in the market. It's not available to the public. It's owned by Dell or ASAP Software. We inherited it through that relationship we had at the time, and since that period, we maintained it ourselves. This is embedded in the appliance, and it self-updates nightly. The appliance goes out every night looking for updates to itself, its agents, as well as this database. So how we gather the information on the software catalog is based upon the schedule of the agent. The agent has 5 different communication settings, whether it's around software metering, inventory, or cataloging. We'll actually grab the data with a full scrub of the endpoint on a determined basis. We'll upload that data, compare against the database, and present you with the catalog. What I have in front of me here is a very small subset. I'm just going to jump onto a cloud box. And if I come back into the software catalog in here, you see the granularity that we actually have. So I'm just going in the right-hand corner. I'm going to check for Office, and you'll see once I look for this guy, let's come down here. We get very granular around, is it OEM, retail, is it Pro Plus, small business, and what version it is. So you see we get very granular around that, even to the point that if you have a desktop support person that installs a copy of Access as an example from an old copy of Microsoft Office, you get audited by Microsoft. You're actually on the hook for a full version of Office and not just Access, right? So we get very granular at an executable level of each product within, and then we can roll that up into that. If I pick Office Pro Plus down the bottom here, just to show you an example, we'll tell you there's 52 copies installed in your environment. If you click on that 52, it's going to take you back to the inventory, to what machines actually have that product installed. At that point, you can use that for targeting, for reporting, or for upgrades, etc. It also tells you what's installed at the executable level. We have full software metering, so single-click metering. The agent's then going to start gathering that metering data. It's going to upload that data to the appliance based upon that communication strategy that you guys choose. And then down here, you also see licenses. So we've come a long way around asset management. I've been in the industry for way too long now. And I find over the years, there's always a sort of a hot topic that comes and goes every 3 or 4 years. Finding right now security and asset management is the big thing, right? If you don't know what assets you have in your environment, then how can you secure them? So you see here, software asset management, as the major vendors like around Oracle, Microsoft, and Adobe starts to look for more revenue generating streams, they tend to come to the audit. So what we do here, we're going to tell you very granularly what you have in your environment for software that is installed. And then we give you the ability to do your license management within KACE as well. So as an example, if you had 50 licenses, but you're out of compliance by 2, you reach out, you just buy 2 new licenses. We can actually dynamically Okay, I'll go back to my box. We can actually dynamically add multiple licenses right from that catalog entry. So I'm just going to open up my Pro Plus one. Come down here, I can add a new license. At this point, it's going to give you a subset of how you want to add it. What type of license is it? Is it in stock, missing, repaired? All of these items here are editable. So in this case, I'm just going to say unit license. I'm going to buy 5, Office 2K16, and give it a unique value. So I'm just going to put 082318. Come down here, you see these required fields. We can actually make what fields you want required or not. So we'll go through here. You'll see now that we now have 60 licenses. Historically, my licenses were added with a 12-month cycle on subscription. So you'll see now that I have 55 licenses that have expired. So what we'll do in the background, we've got fairly comprehensive reporting, and we can base that on a schedule. So as an example, we can send an email with an attachment in various formats, whether it's an XLS, CSV, HTML, etc., on a scheduled basis. So you could receive an email, as an example, the first of each month with an XLS attached, which will tell you, what licenses are expiring in the next period of time, or what maintenance contracts, or, any agreements you have. So very flexible around that. This is also identified as well around the widgets in the dashboards, right? So we can give you an overview at that point as well, red, green, yellow, as to the status of that kind of stuff. You see here around license compliance, exclude from reports and exclude from license compliancy. So this kind of falls into that whole, Adobe Reader versus Acrobat Professional, right? You don't want to roll up Reader. You don't want to report Reader on compliancy reports because it's freeware anyways. So if we go back to the catalog, you'll also see that we have 3 tabs here: discovered, not discovered, and uncatalogued. So basically, the discovered is what we've detected in your environment based upon doing the disk scrub and doing that database compare. The not discovered is the delta, obviously what's not in your environment. And the uncatalogued one is for those corporations that have proprietarily written software, or maybe they're software manufacturers. So in this case, you can simply just come into it, select the piece of software that belongs to you. Say add to catalog, just add to my catalog only. If you are a software publisher and you actually want to publish it to the KACE community, you can select the one above there, provide some contact information that some Quest employees will contact you to validate the legitimacy of the application, and then basically save. And then that just migrates it across from that one tab across. So at that point, you can start doing, software metering and version control and things like that. I'm just going to come back to there. The other thing we have too is also blacklisting. So you'll see under the Not Discovered tab, we have the ability, I always pick on torrent, but we can come in the Not Discovered tab here, just search for torrent in the top right-hand corner. I'm going to return all the torrents in the database. Okay, that's awesome. Let me jump across to this one. And basically, in that way, you can actually just mark them as not allowed, right? So we go back into inventory and the catalog. And what happens at this point, the way the blacklisting works, though, is we're going to actually have to do a full scrub of that endpoint first. It's going to come back. Once this is marked and we've inventoried it, if the customer already has that piece of software on their box, once they execute it, they're going to get a pop-up from KACE saying this is a prohibited application, execution is denied. I think I just lost my screen. Can you guys still see it? Yep.
Yep, we can.
Okay, perfect. So basically at this point here for the torrent, you can just simply come in here, select all, say choose action, mark as not allowed. Then at that point, as I said, any person that has a torrent application on their machine after the next inventory cycle, when they go to execute that application, as an example, it's going to be prohibited. We'll get a notification delivered to the admin of the box, or you can send a notification to the help desk. And then in turn, we can just jump across into the scripting engine and do an uninstall of that software. So, before I move on from the software catalog, is there any questions from anyone out there, or is there a pain point around software license management and inventory that people are experiencing today?
If anybody has any questions, just a friendly reminder, pop it into the chat, and I will relay that to Dave.
Perfect. Thank you. So the other thing we do around sort of inventory and stuff like that, we also do discovery schedules, right? So, we understand that inventory is much more than just, managed agent-based devices. So we have the ability to pull in agentless connectivity. So just to touch on this briefly, whether it's SNMP, Secure Shell, Telnet, or whatever, we can actually scan ranges of IP space and attach, right? So most commonly, it's going to be SNMP based. Excuse me. So if we come in here to SNMP, basically just do a full work, give the creds, whether it's just a public string. From that, we're going to return that information, and we can apply an agentless connection to that. As we all know, SNMP data is a bit rough to look at. So what we can actually do at that point, we have SNMP inventory configurations. So we basically just build it out against the MIBs. We open the MIB, have a look at the OIDs within the MIB. We have a MIB walker for that. And we break down, the 8 or 10, 12 items that you guys have an interest in that box. We apply that to that agentless connection and then import that item into inventory. And then under the hardware inventory, we're going to translate the data that you guys have an interest in. Once again, once we have all that data in inventory, you have the ability to, start reporting on it. We have an integrated service desk in the box that I'll touch on shortly. Once again, having all this information in one database in different tables really gives us the benefit of being able to assign tickets to devices and users and the ability to report on it very easily with all the data being on one box. We do monitoring. For the most part, this is more log scraping. I've got a substantial background in infrastructure before I came across to Dell and Quest. Most people, when they think monitoring, they go straight to the infrastructure side. So what this actually does for us, we monitor the event logs on Windows servers. We have log enablement packs, whether it's for Active Directory, SQL Exchange. That's kind of pre-built search against the event logs. So what we're doing, we're looking for text words within event logs or certain logs that will trigger a notification. That notification can go to an individual user, or most commonly on the service desk, we'll basically have an application service desk queue with an inbound ticket creation that will target from the notification. And then once it hits the help desk, then you guys can respond appropriately. As I touched on, asset management's a big deal for people. In this version, we've added a dashboard just for the asset management perspective. You can break down assets by type, software titles in the environment, cost of unused licenses. So the thing with license compliance, what I typically find in myself historically, if I don't have a handle on my software usage or my software license compliance, I tend to oversubscribe because of the threat of being audited. So not only most customers do I find that, once they get a handle on their software assets, not only do they find that they're undersubscribed, a lot of them find they're oversubscribed. So we find that the cost of KACE to a lot of the customers, a lot of it is reclaimed just by truing up software and reclaiming those licenses that they don't actually need when they go to true up next time. But you see here, it gives you a good breakdown. Once again, this is customizable through adding and removing widgets. To your needs there. We're very customizable. The thing with KACE, when we go way back in time, like 16 years ago when KACE was created, the whole point that Marty wanted, he wanted a pizza box. Back in those days, we're back in SMS or very early versions of SCCM, which was actually SMS. And it's just like, this has to be easier. So he kind of came out with that pizza box mentality of the first version of KACE. To encompass everything so you could rapidly, get it up and running and customize. So you see here under asset types, we have a ton of stuff. If you want to create a new asset type to fit your needs, give it a name. I'm just going to call this tester. And down here, we simply just add things. So we can put in here owner, we can basically attach this to the LDAP import of user, add it. You can add a location. If you had multiple locations here, you could do this as a single select field and just make this comma separated. So you see here, it's very easy to sort of correlate that. If as an example, maybe this was a piece of technology that was attached to a device. You know, I have some customers that, you know, their standard for monitors are 24-inch panels. Once in a while, they'll get a draftsman that has a couple of 32 or 40-inch panels, which are unique to the environment that they want to be able to capture and associate to. So once again, we can actually attach stuff like that to devices. Once it's here, asset, device, and add. So once again, as we go through, you see here, it's very easy to create new asset types and to modify, to add and correlate to people. Also, once these assets are created, they're also available to service desk in order to create tickets against. Just to save for me. And for most customers, you know, when I had the question around, you know, how do you guys deal with assets today, whether they're hardware or software, physical or logical assets, everyone seems to have a whole bunch of different options, right? A lot of cloud options around, you know, Adobe CAD and Microsoft products, which are great. You know, you can log in and see what assets you own there. But that's really, you know, even though it's a large footprint in the environment, overall, it's a very small subset of the assets that you guys own. So a lot of people basically just deal with it in spreadsheets or other one-off tools. So if you do have other one-off tools for asset management and you have the ability to export them out to a CSV file, we allow you guys to do bulk imports. So what this basically does here, you know, you just browse to your CSV file, select the CSV, say it has a file header row. At that point, what it's going to do, it's going to present the header row, and it's going to correlate it against those asset type fields that we just created, you know, around attached to and user. So for myself, when I'm working with customers, the best practice around this would be, you know, either, you know, create an asset type from scratch, create the asset type fields that align with the header row in your spreadsheet, or modify the spreadsheet to compare. And based upon that, as you come in, you just align them and import the assets. At that point, going forward, you know, if they're still having multiple copies of spreadsheets, as you do multiple imports, we'll have a primary key, which is typically a serial number or an asset name. And if multiple spreadsheets have different values of data, we'll append that data across bulk imports. The other thing we do is managed installs, so basically software distribution. We have the ability to distribute software, whether they're executables or MSIs. One thing I didn't touch on is we have agents for Linux, Mac, and Windows. So from a Mac perspective, we do full Mac patching as well as the Wintel patching. We have some workarounds for Linux patching, but under the managed installs, we actually just do software distribution for both the Mac environment and the Wintel boxes. Anything basically you can push out silently from a command line with an MST or an MSP or command line switches, we can deliver for you very easily. What we basically do around replication, I want to jump back to inventory. Our backbone to our box is what we call smart labels. So if you think of a smart label as a dynamic container that we can wrap a bunch of boxes around for targeting, for software deployment, or patching, or reporting. The most common one for people are IP-based locations. As I said, part of the LDAP integration, we can also grab the OU structure as well. I typically find most customers, their Active Directory structure, it's either pristine or it's really bad. There's really no one in between. So I find the IP-based one works really well. And for us, we simply just come in here, say smart label, IP address begins with, and just give it some octet. So in my case, I don't have much to show you, but if I go .1, test it, it should just return a box. It's one box. If I remove that, test it again, it's basically going to return the whole environment except for 3. And just give it a name here, say location, tester or whatever, and save it. Because it is dynamic, as machines transit in and out of that IP space, then you find that it's very effective, especially if you attach a replication share to an IP space, so that if you target machines for a patching strategy or software distribution, their payload is actually coming locally from where they are today, not from where Active Directory says they are. A good example of one of your local customers in Alberta is PCL. PCL is a large SCACM shop owned by Infrastructure. The field services team have about 7,000 endpoints across Canada and the US. They use KACE exclusively for asset management, especially this one here in particular. They have a chargeback model that every project they have in place, whether it's a hockey arena or a hotel or whatever, that project pays for their IT costs. So they found even just this basic IP space labeling was very effective because they could run a comparison report around, you know, where is this asset assigned to versus where is it really. So just a simple thing around, you know, some benefits for that. So once you do this, other things to touch on for smart labels, you'll see here, any of these aspects of this box, we can wrap a label around. Whether you want to wrap around hardware type, you know, if you want to target, you know, I'm doing a Windows 10 upgrade, but I need to make sure that these boxes have certain amount of hardware, right? So we can make a smart label to say, you know, more than X free space, more than X memory, create that. And then if you wanted to just do an in-place upgrade on the scripting module, we could just point to the media, setup.exe space / auto update / the rest of the command line. And you could target that label of machines that you've already distinguished that meets your hardware requirements and put a schedule around that. So smart labels, incredible power. To me, it's one of the best parts of the box is the flexibility around that. So once we do that, we have the ability to create a replication share. So for replication, for payload, all we need in the environment is a machine with an agent and a file share. So nothing special. So typically I say to customers, you know, if you have a server that has greater than, you know, 10 or 20 inbound connections, create a file share on that guy. And then at that point, we attach it to that label that we created. So any machines within that .1 network, in this case, once they check into KACE and they're told they have payload or a task that requires payload, they'll get redirected to that file share and grab it locally. Very granular bandwidth scheduling, which works awesome. And you'll see here, basically, this is my share inventory. So I'm going to replicate any patches which have been approved for distribution, any software that you want to push out to the environment, any scripts, as well as new agent versions, right? So in large environments, the agent sits around a 30 meg MSI. So we actually have the ability to replicate the agent out there. The agent will self-update. It's just a tick box to say enabled, and then, you know, once you advertise a new agent, when we check in on the inventory basis, we're going to say, hey, there's a new agent for you, but you're part of this share. Go grab it and upgrade yourself. So it works very well. One cool feature I really like in this box is alerts. It's like an old broadcast messaging, but we wrap it around in a text box. So in this one here, this is just a health and safety, depending on the industry you're in. You see how rapidly that's deployed. I said run now, and it's already popped up. So freeform text, once again, you can target all devices in your environment, individual boxes, which I just did, or labels. So that label would be things like that IP-based location label. To think of this as not only health and safety incidences, if you're having an application outage, a pending upcoming system outage for upgrades or maintenance, you can communicate this to your environment very easily without your help desk getting pounded. This expiry here is a 2-hour self-expiry. This will stay for 2 hours. If not, if the customer clicks OK, it just goes away. So as I said, you can run it now immediately, or you can run it on a recurring schedule. So it's a little thing, but I find it has great value for sure. As I said, we've got a scripting engine. It's pretty powerful. It's shell-based. So anything you guys are currently do, whether you just run batch files for staff or PowerShell, we can come in and basically just create scripts for that. You'll see here on the shell, you can just put your shell script in here or call batch files or whatever. Under dependencies, we can upload the payload to that. And you'll see here as well, under the deployment side, the targeting stays the same, whether we're patching, scripting, or whatever. We're going to target individual all or groups of machines based on there. Need different credentials, we can override and add credentials here for that script to run if required. The agent, when it is installed, however, is installed with elevated privilege. So most of the time, the agent has the privilege to install software, patch, or basically, run scripts as required. We also have a bunch of CAN configuration scripts built in. Things like creating desktop shortcuts, power management strategies that we can apply against groups of machines or individuals. And as I touched on before, uninstaller policy. So right here, we're going to basically grab, every piece of software you have in the box. 90% of the time, depending on the publisher, we're going to grab the uninstall command line. Once we do this, just give it a name. That'll do. You'll see it basically auto creates the script. So you see by default, it's disabled, not assigned to any machine. Once again, all, some, or many. Scheduling, and this is basically the script that's created. It's verifying that it actually is there. And then basically the remediation based upon this is launching MSI exec with that command line. So very easy. Once again, you can create smart labels to identify certain software and publishers. And then at that time, if you have an image, maybe your image isn't up to date, it's an old image or it's an OEM image because you don't have the rights to image. You can have this set up to basically remove all the vendor bloatware so that even once this is set, you can have it set to run at midnight every day to remove, 3 or 4 pieces of software. And then as you bring new boxes into the environment, if there's old software or unwanted software within your image, this will automatically remove that for you. If you didn't want to target all machines all the time, even though our agent inventory will handle that for you, back on the smart label, you can create a smart label that said, create date is less than 48 hours. And that's basically any machine that has an agent installed that's less than 48 hours old that's inventoried in KACE will go into a container. We'll target that container for like aggressive patching, software distribution, or removal when a net new machine comes from the imaging side of the house. And then once that 48 hours expires, that machine will drop out of that label and no longer be targeted and then fall into other labels that are predefined. Yep. Just keeping on my time here. It's a lot to cover in such a short space of time. I'm going to bang this off pretty fast. What I'd say though, reach out to your Optrics team if you have interest, and we can follow up with a, more one-on-one time. Basically for us, we do everything that WSUS does. We're in parity with WSUS. I'm going to say we do it better, and we do it better because our subscription comes from Avanti, which was mentioned in Heat Software. Avanti is now Landesk, so it is a premier patch feed. They do mount and test their patches prior to delivering it to their subscribers. So for that reason, I find it's a better fit primarily because, our patches are tested before delivered. So basically, we tell the box here when it can leave your premise to go looking for patches. In my case, 2 a.m. every day, I'm going to purge unused patches after 32 days. We come to subscription. So another key differentiator for us is we patch max. So basically, in this case here, I'm just looking at my inventory, documenting what that is, grabbing patches as required. Same, security, non-security, critical recommended patches. And as a differentiator is your third-party feed. So we have a comprehensive third-party patch feed. You just see, I'm just going to scoot through this pretty quick. But based upon that, we can do all your third-party stuff that maybe today, your desktop support guys are doing it as they're visiting customers, or on the SCCM side of the house. If you haven't spent the big bucks on the bolt-on, you're repackaging applications in order to patch. So once that's done, we're going to give you the catalog. And then within the catalog, we're going to list all the patches. In our case, we're going to create smart labels around that. And then, we can just say, publisher. If you wanted to, patch Java as an example, we can say that, say Oracle, add a line, and we have and/or statements here. You can say name, contains JRE, and we'll see if I did this right. We can do a test against that. Okay, what did I called it something wrong there? Okay, we'll jump back. So, publisher contains Adobe. There we go. So if we do that, we just do a test against that. This is going to list all your Adobe patches. If I change this up here, actually, to all patches and individual. So the key to this is we basically just create smart labels based upon what it is that you want to patch, right? So most commonly, if you've got a WSUS environment today, for most customers, I basically create a smart label that says publisher does not contain Microsoft, severity equals critical. Create a label which is going to encompass all of your third-party vendors, and you can apply that to your environment. So you'll see here, we're up to 3,600 patches in that. Once again, smart label, publisher, if you want to focus on just the Adobe critical stuff. Contains, I typically do contain, so we're not so restricted. Adobe, do a test. That should just filter out all other vendors other than Adobe. And then we can add another line and say severity is critical, which, as I said, for WSUS customers where they've got a handle on the Microsoft stack, they can focus on getting their third-party trued up pretty quick. This is all our Adobe critical stuff. It's going to cover off all the Adobe products, including multiple major versions. Based on the detection cycle, we will do, we'll target whatever's on that box. We don't have to get more granular on this label. We can just go against that. Once it's there, we've got labels created for, for your target, for your hardware. We've got a label based on software, and we simply wrap a schedule around it. Just to check this out quickly. Basically here, give it a name, machines that we're targeting. We have functionality around doing detection and deployment in different windows. This is more around servers. If you want to detect outside of change, deploy in. If the patch supports rollback, we'll roll it back. Target of the label of patches. Notification, if you want to give your customers options to notify, give them an option around canceling snooze or whatever. Messaging, pretty good reboot options, delaying reboot, force reboot, scheduling. If you have machines in multiple time zones in other provinces, we can then also target them and say, hey, target the agent time zone so you guys can maintain one policy around, time and process around patching without having to change it. We also do Dell updates. We target the very same way. The option with Dell updates is basically firmware BIOS and drivers for your server and enterprise clients. Had a lot of success around Meltdown and Scepter vulnerabilities and automating BIOS updates. We're very strong in that field. Service desk, sorry guys, I've got about 2 minutes here. Service desk, pretty decent ticketing system. I'll say straight up, it's not a Remedy, it's not a ServiceNow. But we're very strong in the space of ticket management, multiple queues, multiple technicians at no additional cost, full email, inbound ticket creation, user portal, knowledge base, software, distribution portal, self-service portal. So, if you've got a bunch of different tools of smaller help desks in place or small help desks, this is a great tool that's embedded in the cost of the appliance. And as I said before, your user and your device inventory is all in multiple tables in the same database. So, maintaining history and correlating tickets and problems between devices and users is very strong. Reporting, we have 175 canned reports, all broken down into categories. You can create new reports based upon a wizard, which will just walk you through some tick boxes. You can also enable offboard database access to the database, so you can connect to it with MySQL Workbench or Toad, build your query, and basically copy and paste a query into the SQL report creation wizard. Also, any other reports you've created in here, you can actually send on a report schedule. So you can attach that to a schedule and report. A quick example there is basically just, I patch on the Saturday, 6 a.m. Monday, I've got a patch status report that's going to email me at 6 a.m. to tell me what devices to fail to patch by patch. And I'm going to send it as a spreadsheet because depending on how bad a cycle it was, I may have a ton of data in there. Last but not least is settings. Once again, we are an appliance. So, care and feeding is very simple. We have the ability to link appliances between management appliances and deployment appliances. We also have a KACE MDM cloud-based MDM tool, which we can also integrate. So we'll grab all your MDM asset management, suck them into KACE, so you have the same functionality for those as well. We also integrate with AirWatch and Google G Suite and stuff. Last but not least, the appliance updates itself. Every night it goes out, looks for an update for the server or agent. If there is one, it'll download. It will broadcast to the administrator to say there is one. If you require change, if you're using Service Desk, you can raise change to apply the update or update to agents. You have full control of how that's delivered. Software catalog updates itself. The patch feed updates itself. The Dell catalog updates itself. Last but not least, we also have vulnerability scanning. We tie back into Oval. So we basically download an Oval catalog automatically as well. So from a security perspective, on top of patching, if you also have a need for vulnerability scanning, we can also do that for you. So I apologize for really compressing the last 3 minutes there, guys. That's our systems management appliance. As I said, it's our flagship product. Once we left Dell, became purely a software play. Very aggressive development schedule, great strong roadmap ahead of us, and I have full confidence in this box to replace SCCM or any other competitor out there. So I'll hand it back to you there, Scott.
Okay, well, thank you, Dave. Lots of great information there. I'm going to just quickly turn this over to Mark so that he can show the different models. So we're clear on what the actual appliance is. Okay, just bear with us.
Hang on here. There we go. Let me just share my screen. There we go. Share. Well, thanks. Thanks, Dave, for that great demo. And Scott, I assume there are no other questions?
Correct. At this point, I don't see any other questions.
Okay, so let me just, folks, can everybody see my screen? Probably the easiest way is to go to our website. Dave actually demonstrated the KACE Systems Management Appliance today. If you go to the website, I think that'll give you pretty well most of the information about the appliance. We've got a demo here. We list out kind of the specs of the product, what it does. There's a bit of a tour. There's some white papers with specifically around this appliance. Typically pricing, if you want pricing, I suggest you just contact the folks at Optrics and they can work with us on pricing. But typically we like to understand what your current needs are before we make a recommendation on a specific appliance for you. But again, I think if you go to our website, and I've got it up on the screen here, you will find most of the information around, well, you will find all the information around the systems management appliance, which Dave just went through, and also the systems deployment appliance is also there. So that's probably the best place to get the information. And again, please reach out to the folks at Optrics with regards to pricing. And we're happy to work more closely with you to go to really evaluate your specific needs. Happy to get on a call with you, and Dave can absolutely go through the product specifically around the areas that you wish to automate and improve. So if there are no more questions, Scott, I will turn it back over to you. And again, thanks everyone for your hour. We know that's your time is precious, but again, thanks for the folks at Optrics for setting this up, and we look forward to working with yourself and Optrics on addressing your on addressing your systems management issues. Thanks.
Perfect. All right. Thanks, Mark, and certainly thanks, Dave, for your explanation. So next steps on our end, Andrew, Daryl, John, on the webinar to see if you have any further questions. They can certainly arrange, as Dave has said, a one-on-one demo, find out what it is you need, and then we can take it from there. If you'd like a free trial, we can certainly work that out as well. Now, ultimately, each of your is different, so we just would love to have that discussion with you to sort through how we can help and how KACE could potentially help you. So thanks again, everyone, for your time today, and enjoy the rest of the week.